Welcome to episode 38 of Chew on This, a Nerds United podcast. I'm BJ.
Vic. All right. Well, the day finally came. We visited Rancho Obi-Wan, and oh my God, it was amazing. If you ever wanted to feel what it was like to be in a time machine, to go back and relive your childhood through some materialistic thing, this would be it. Right from the very
this
beginning.
was the ultimate.
Yeah, so I don't know what other things out there for us. It was Star Wars to do this thing, and I'm sure other people have other things where they would maybe visit a comic book or see a comic book they haven't seen in a really long time since their childhood, like visiting a comic book store. But just imagine that this comic is in this giant museum of just all of your childhood memories, and that's what this is right here, and that's Rancho Obi-Wan. I don't even know where to start with what we saw.
Well, I'm not even sure if there's anything like comparable to this. Like, there's nothing out there that I could think of that I'd be like, oh, that I was so nostalgic about. Like everywhere I went on this tour, my heart just kept leaping out of my chest. I kept going, oh my god, I had that, or oh my gosh, I remember that, or there were so many things. I mean, this
Yeah,
is the whole.
it's not just like childhood stuff too. It's also it's childhood stuff plus things you couldn't afford or thought you'd never see.
yeah. Let's preface by saying there was a lot of childhood memory stuff, but there was a lot of expensive toys that you were just like, oh, I wish I could afford that when it first came out, but there was no way. But here it was, you got to see it. It's not like you had to like find some other like eccentric collector or whatever, or find it on eBay or something like that. You can go here and you can see it. I mean, Steve has everything.
Right. There was stuff that you probably didn't see. It looked like there was stuff that weren't even part of the tour, but you would see things like the famous. You're going to see things like the famous the C3PO
tape dispenser. Was that from? That was from Japan, wasn't it?
Right. You're going to see. You're going to see vintage action figures that you thought you would never see, like the variant Jawa. You're going to see things like food products that you would never see from around the world. What stood out the most to you during the tour?
Well, I mean, seeing the Boba Fett mail away thing that had the shooting rocket, I really wanted to see that. And the Jawa vinyl, like the variant, I was really wanting to see that. And then of course, well, we could talk about that a little bit later, what we saw at the very, very end. But I just want to preface this by saying that, we were huge Star Wars nerds first and foremost, but it was just it was kind of like this experience. It's like going to Woodstock or going somewhere like powerful, like some power place. It was kind of like that for me. I've been a lifelong Star Wars fan, but to see somebody like enjoy it and have all this cool stuff that he shares with everybody, it was just a really good, warm, fuzzy feeling. And we were there like 5.5, 6 hours, just to let you guys know. We were there a long time. And right. I could have stayed longer. If he would have let me, I would have stayed longer.
Yeah, that's the main thing, right? You could probably not have Steve give you the tour, and you would just be blown away by how much stuff you're seeing. Like if you went to like the Natural History Museum in New York or something like that. But the added bonus is that we took the tour with Steve Sansweet there, and the stories that he had. If you love reading about stories about background information, film, how a film is made, props, all this stuff, all these interesting stories that you would get from like, okay, well, how did this come about, or how is this done, or what does this mean? The tour was just right up your alley. I mean, he had so many great stories, and I'm sure I could probably take the tour like 10 times and probably get different stories every single time.
Yeah, I kind of had that feeling too. I think he picks up different collectibles at different times and tells stories about them, and it was very rare. It wasn't a whole lot of opportunity to really stop him and ask questions, because he was just telling stories left and right and picking up things. I mean, every now and then I'd get a gap and I'd ask him something, and he was very gracious. He never one time went, hey, shut up, punk, I'm not done telling my stories. He was very like courteous and very gracious, and just very warm. And we were told, before we sent an email to him asking to interview him, we were told that his favorite thing is to hear people's stories about Star Wars bringing people together. And that was our story for sure. And so he enjoyed that. And then listening to him, like, he didn't start collecting until he was in his late 30s, early 40s. So, he had the fortitude to not open stuff up. I mean, because like we talked about, we got toys when we were 7 or 8, and we just chewed on them or tore them up, or you know. But he had like vintage figures behind glass, and then he had the same vintage figures carded. So he had them doubled. I'm sure he's got more, boxed up somewhere, but like everywhere you went, there was something cool to look at. And then there was something cool to look at behind it. Your brain just can't process all this stuff. Like, you have to probably go there several times to really get it all in and, and listen to all his stories. But I mean, I've written so much stuff down, but the more I read them, the more I thought to myself, I really shouldn't say a lot of this stuff out, because if you guys ever wanted to go on the tour, you don't want to have all this stuff in your head of what we're saying. It's better if you just go and experience it for yourself. But I mean, we could tell you some of the things that we saw, but the stories are just priceless. You need to be there to listen to a lot of that stuff. But what stuck out to you? I mean, what was the one thing you saw that you went, holy cow, I can't believe that this is here?
Wow. That happened a few times for me. Right from the beginning, when we first met Steve, there was a vintage figure there, the Vader figure that you'll hear about later on in the podcast interview with Steve. So that got me right away. Seeing that vintage Vader figure, and then walking when he starts at a certain point before he gets to, like, every time he opened the door, I want to say this, every time he opened the door, it got better and better and better.
Oh my
I mean,
gosh.
I think there was like 3 doors that were opened, and every time he opened the door, it got better. So just when you thought the tour was coming to an end, he would open a door, and then something else amazing would happen, or open a curtain and something else amazing would happen. But when we went into the main warehouse and I
Mm.
saw that column of vintage figures, and then, I mean, he had figures. He had the first 12 or the first 11. The 12th was somewhere else. And then on the backside of that, he even had figures from the Droids and Ewoks cartoon, which
Yes.
was ridiculous that he
That
had
was
those too.
super cool. Yeah, I don't think I even owned any of those. I think I saw them when I was a kid, but to have it right there in front of you, that was pretty cool. You're right. Um,
Yeah, so that to me stuck out the most, that it hit you right then and there that you saw all these vintage figures, but then as you were walking down the museum, or yeah, walking down the aisles in the museum, it just got better, because there was, like you said before, you just can't take everything in. There's so much to see and so many stories. I mean, I bet you he can stay in one section for an entire tour and not move on, just
oh, for
telling
sure.
stories.
That first area that we went into, we were in there for a very long time before we moved into the other parts. But there was just so much to see, and like I remember, you like were tapping me on the shoulder, like, dude, look over there, look over there. And I looked through, like, it was but it wasn't out. It was like back in the back. He had all these master replica original Force FX lightsabers, and one of them was the curved
Massage,
one. It was a
yeah,
Saj
Saj
Ventress's,
Ventress.
which I've never seen that. I didn't even know, honestly, I didn't even know that existed, because I would have had that in my collection. I would have bought that, like, no problem. But now it's probably worth, I mean, way more than I think it originally was. So there's no way I could ever afford it. But I couldn't believe he had that. And it was stuff like that. It's like a lot of stuff was out, but every now and then you catch a glimpse of something that was not on the shelves. It was behind the scenes, like back in there somewhere, that he hasn't pulled it out yet. And I was just blown away by that. The other thing that I was curious about, and I think he mentioned it to you later on, but I was asking him about uh, episode 7 stuff. There really wasn't a lot. There was a couple of 6-inch figures and then a couple of Disney Elite figures.
I had
Um,
heard that the reason why that is because he doesn't have the room for it. There's no
Yeah.
room in the current way that it's set up for him to actually put episode 7 stuff out. There is a few things there, but it's mostly from the previous 6 movies. I would say 99.99999 are all from the previous 6 movies. So I'm sure we'll get notice once the episode 7 goes up, and the
Hmm.
Rogue One stuff goes up, and the episode 8 stuff goes up.
Yeah.
The Han Solo movie goes up, like all this stuff. Like, so I think the reason why, and from what I read or heard before we went there, that a lot of the episode 7 stuff up is not up because there's no room. And once you take the tour, you'll understand why, because it's packed with stuff. It's packed with eye candy from top to bottom.
Yeah, it's really amazing how, I kept seeing things that I could not believe were there. And then he would say, "Oh, I got this from a collector who had it in a warehouse." And then I got to, know him. And then he like donated it. I mean, all these different stories. Like the one thing that stuck out to me, one of the very first things besides the figures, is when we went into the main room, I looked to my left and he's like, there's the Cantina Band, the whole band, and like he hit a button and they like danced and they played the music, and I was like, I stared at it for a second. I'm like, I've seen this. I know where this came from. And before I was able to ask him, he's like, yeah, this came from F.A.O. Schwartz in Caesar's Palace in Las Vegas. And I said, yeah, I've gone there a few times. Like I've had, slushies at the bar and all that stuff. And and then like later on, I think you told me, because you got to spend some time with him alone. You guys wandered off to go grab a table so that we could podcast, and you came back with more information. You're like, dude, he's got a life-size Jabba the Hutt back there and the throne room, and he wants to create a cantina back there and all that stuff. And that blew my mind. I was like, oh my god, like we have to come back here and hang out in the cantina, which I think we talk about in the in the interview.
Yeah,
um,
overall, we spent, including the podcast, we spent about, I think probably over 6 hours there with Steve, and spent a long time with the tour. He spent a generous amount of time with us, speaking to us and hanging out with us, taking pictures. And I feel like after 6+ hours, he's almost like an uncle that has like a cool bar in the basement that your parents say like, yeah, that's Uncle Steve. He's got all this cool stuff, and then you finally go to his bar, and it's better than you thought it ever could be in your mind. And I think I'm gonna go for broke and ask if I can like sleep over his house, or or sleep over in his museum, and specifically the arcade. Yes, folks, there's an arcade there, and you
oh
can, and they're mostly all on. I think they're all on free play. So yeah, I would just sit there and just play video games all night.
yeah, I think you played one for a while, and then my son actually went and played it from beginning to end. And then I played the pod racing game. That was pretty awesome. And then of course there's the original like Star Wars game where you um
Yeah,
I can't.
you're an X-wing fighter, and
Yes,
they're
like a
shooting
bunch of
like these.
sparks.
Yeah, yeah, because
It's
the
like,
technology back then wasn't
but
very good.
yeah, but it's still such a cool game. I mean, oh, that was fun. We played. I think I played a pinball game, and my son played a pinball game, and that was really fun to watch him like play stuff that I played before he was born. Like he was playing this stuff, and it just made me giddy. I was just like, this is awesome. Yeah, you're right. Like I would just say like, hey, I just knock on his gate and say like, hey, can I come in and play some games, and drink at the cantina?
Right.
Um, yeah,
So I mean, like,
mhm.
we have the interview after this with Steve. So we just wanted to give a short recap of what we saw. We didn't want to spoil the tour at all, because you have to go and experience it yourself. If you're a Star Wars fan and you collected or bought toys at any point in time, you got to go. Just the sheer magnitude of stuff that he's got there, and just imagine the fact that like we probably only saw 80% of it,
Yeah.
because the rest of it is still stored away in boxes. We can't thank Steve Sansweet and also Ann Newman enough for allowing us to not only just take the tour, but to be able to interview Steve afterwards. They were really great and generous with their time. Um, yeah, just
Yeah,
take the tour if you're a Star Wars
yeah,
fan.
take the tour if you're a Star Wars fan. Also, everything. It's a nonprofit organization, so everything that you donate or you buy a membership and you buy the tickets. or if all of it goes to really good causes. He really loves fan-made projects, fan-made things. So bring him something. There was a guy from Australia that came all the way over with this box. I mean, he traveled all over the United States doing different things, but he carried this box full of stuff that he wanted to give Steve. And that's how dedicated, that's how wonderful Star Wars fans are. And Steve, and just looking at Steve's face going like, oh, I don't have this. It was super cool, and we even brought something, we won't say what it is until you listen to the interview, but we brought something to him that I think he really enjoyed. Yeah, but you're going to find out. I mean, the man is such a cool guy. He's lived like 3 lives, and this is his, I don't want to say swan song. That sounds ridiculous, but this is like his passion, and it's really cool to talk to somebody who's so passionate about something, especially something that we love. And we just had an amazing time that I will guarantee you I will be going back there for sure.
All right, so guys, stick around. Stick around for the interview.
Yeah, thanks again, Ann and Steve. And now we're going to welcome the man himself, Mr. Steve Sansweet.
Sorry, I'm not answering that question.
Who are you going to vote for?
We wanted to ask questions that you had nothing to do with anything.
Nothing Star Wars related.
We're going to ask you everything about Star Trek and baseball cards. All right, so actually the first thing I wanted to say is that you were actually part of the reason why we met, one of the reasons we actually met. So I've listened and read a lot of your stuff, and I know one of the things that you love the most is how Star Wars brings people together.
Absolutely.
So that's actually how we met.
Yeah, it was Celebration 3 in Indianapolis, 2005.
Yep, and what had happened was it was basically part of collecting because we were on the merchandise line where the computers broke down. And we were there for, 6 to 8 hours waiting
We were
online.
there for hours.
That was
You remember?
a nightmare. Oh, I remember very well.
So they're like, anyone with cash, come on up. And we're like, damn it.
Yeah, I'm not going to carry $600 in cash to buy toys.
Yeah.
So basically, what ended up happening was I'm originally from New Jersey. He's still in Redding, California, and we actually converged on the line. And it was basically like when you're in the grocery store and somebody decides to pay with a check, and everybody online just looks at each other, or you have 20 items in the 10-item line.
Yep.
So basically, that's what we did. We're like, what the hell is going on here? And then we started talking, and we basically missed the entire first day, and we were like, well, why don't we just help each other out? And then
You stand in line while I go look at things. I'll stand in line while you go look at things.
That's great.
So however many years later, over 10 years
10,
later,
11 years later,
here we are talking to you. And I think you opened Celebration 3, right? Yeah, that was,
3, 4. Japan, Europe.
Wow.
That was a long time ago. I can't believe it's been like 10 years.
Yeah, I can't believe celebrations lasted this long after our first one.
In Denver.
Rain out in
it
Denver,
was
yeah.
It was bad. It was terrible. It's waiting out in the mud and the rain.
Were you there?
Yeah. I went to
Oh,
1, 2, 3, and then 7 because I didn't go to Anaheim or over to Europe. So
Yeah, I've been to all 11.
wow.
And I was going to pass on this one, and I just decided, no.
We were reading that. We were talking about that. We're like, I guess he's not going to go.
Well,
And
they
then-
didn't invite us as Rancho Obi-Wan, and it was a 3-day convention and everything. We'll see what happens in Orlando. 'Cause we've got a really good idea for an exhibit, but we'll see.
Awesome.
Any spoilers for that on this podcast?
Yeah, I just don't know. I haven't asked them. They haven't asked me, but I mean, they're just
It's a
getting back
ways
and
away.
getting back in.
Yeah.
So.
We actually drove around the community because we got here like 4 hours early. So we drove around the community and went to the Target. I've heard a few of the podcasts that you were on that there's no Walmart here. So I guess I'll lead with the question of like when you go around the area walking into like Target, do people like know who you are? Do they roll their eyes or give you a cart full of pre-shopped Star Wars stuff for you to buy?
So occasionally I'll go into Target and there will be a somebody at the register that I'll recognize and they'll recognize me, or they'll see the quantity of Star Wars stuff and they'll look at me and saying, "Are you that guy?" You're the guy. So
Yeah.
that does happen occasionally.
In this community, is Target the only one that you really go to, or?
No, I mean, there's so much food products out there now that,
Oh, okay.
I'll go to Safeway. They know me at the Hallmark Gold Crown store because they've been doing a lot of Star Wars stuff lately, some really cool stuff. And thinking where else? And then occasionally I'll go to the Walmart that's like 35 miles away. The close Walmart is. Last Christmas, they had no Star Wars stuff on the shelf.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like, huh? So occasionally I'll go to that one and I'll be disappointed and then ask some friend in Texas, which has Walmart every other block, to try to find something for me. So, it all works out in the long run. Right now I'm looking for, we just found the Bird's Eye Yoda pasta and broccoli bags. And I don't know if, next to the Frozen and Avengers bags. And I don't know, somebody has said that there's more than just Yoda, but I don't know. So keep your ears and eyes open.
Yeah, send them to Steve
Fellow
if you find
collectors.
them. Absolutely.
And then I'm looking for, there's like Glad containers, like Glad wrap, Glad bags, and I think there's some Star Wars Glad bag containers. Ziplocs or something like that. Yeah.
Right.
So those are the latest things I'm looking for. Food products have always been important to me.
We were looking in the wrong places. We were looking at toy stuff.
Toys. Anybody can get toys.
We went to Target. We didn't go to the food section. We went right to the toys.
We went right to the toys.
I now tend to go to the food sections first because it's the food, as I said briefly on the tour, it's like, back in 77, Mom hadn't gone to see Star Wars. It was not her kind of movie for the most part. There were a lot of women who were into it. But seeing that Star Wars cereal on the table every day, that's how Darth Vader became part of the broader culture, even people who didn't know it, how editorial cartoonists started using Darth Vader. And eventually it just seeps into the everyday popular culture, especially in the English-speaking countries.
I never really thought of that.
I did buy my daughter Star Wars macaroni and cheese, and I did buy her Star Wars Campbell's meatballs and pasta.
Did they have SpaghettiOs?
Yeah,
Yes,
that's it. It was
SpaghettiOs too. Yeah.
Yeah.
There was, but the fresh fruit is hard. The Yoda grapes, the Darth Vader apples, and the BB8 oranges, which we found at the low price food market.
I think I've seen the BB-8 oranges. What
The
we need to
bag
be
is cool.
scared of is when they actually start growing oranges that look like BB-8.
Yeah,
I think
that'd
that's
be
a
really-
cool idea.
That'd be really interesting.
Genetically modified oranges.
Yeah, and then grapes that look like Yoda.
Jar Jar Kiwis or something. I don't know.
Jar Jar Kiwis. Yeah. Okay. Now, moving right along.
So you talked about on the tour, because one of the questions was, what was the first thing that you ever received, or what was the first item? For me, I want to say, I think the first thing that I ever got Star Wars wise was an AT-AT. That was the biggest deal, like in 1981, Christmas 81, something like that. So what was the first Star Wars item you received? I mean, did you receive anything for Christmas, or did you
I
go out
was
and
too
purchase it
old. I was
yourself?
buying myself.
Right.
No, actually, I did. As a gift, friends of mine, and it wasn't initially, had found. I didn't realize that The Art of Star Wars and The Art of Empire Strikes Back had come out in hardcover. I had just bought the softcover editions, but there were hardcover editions, and of all things, trying to buy me something Star Wars, and these good friends. So it was the Christmas probably of 1980, and I was just like, my mouth was agape.
That's
I
awesome.
didn't, because there was no online back then?
No.
Well,
They
you
had to go to a store and find it.
Well, yeah, and there were a lot of bookstores back then, unlike today when there's
Yeah.
one per 100,000 people or a million people or something like that. So yeah, I mean there have been things like that. I have gotten gifts, especially early on, that I didn't have, and now it's more like the unique kind of gift. Like my friend Bob found the Stormtrooper Beavis and Butthead figures.
Oh, yeah, I love that. That was
and,
fantastic.
yeah, so it's fun things like that.
What was? Do you have any?
I don't remember.
recollection?
One of the worst, the earliest recollection of Star Wars I have is that I remember moving from North New Jersey to the shore of New Jersey, and I remember not having all the pieces for my Millennium Falcon, and I remember watching TV, and you were talking about the lightsaber that comes out at the. I remember sitting there watching TV and chewing on the lightsaber. Yeah.
That hurts.
Yeah. I remember that specifically.
Yes, well, at least you don't have the memory of, oh, yeah, I had the missile-firing Boba Fett, but I buried it in the backyard and we moved. Oh,
I swallowed the rocket.
Dog, yeah, the dog chewed the rocket. I've heard so many stories like that. And, sometimes I just say, oh, gee, that's amazing.
I played with my Star Wars toys in the dirt, but recently I bought. I didn't see a lot of Episode 7 stuff out there, but except for the San Diego Comic-Con First Order Stormtrooper. But I bought a regular Stormtrooper, First Order Stormtrooper, and right out of the box, just positioned the arm and it ripped right off. I was so mad because you can't you can't even find that figure right now. I bought it on Force Friday, which was really pitiful, really pitiful.
I was at Toys R Us, their main Midtown Manhattan store, which unfortunately has closed, for Force Friday. We had done
This was last year.
Yeah.
Okay.
We had done a deal with them where we had about 20 cases filled with about 70 items from the collection with little signs that said what things were all over the store. Oh, wow. And then I did a panel. So that was fun, but the only thing I bought that day, and then they opened the line and I didn't want to be in there, and there was all this stuff and it was all fresh and new and everything. And the one thing I really wanted was the Sparrow BB8. And and that's the only thing I bought for Force Friday.
I think we each got one of those too, but I bought mine in like Bed Bath & Beyond or something.
Yeah.
It was really strange.
They sold them there. Yeah.
I bought mine at a weird Brainiac type toy store where they just had them on display in New Jersey. I was there visiting family, and it was in the mall. I never go in that store because I'm like, I don't want to buy magnets or whatever they sell over there. So, and all of a sudden there's just a giant display for Star Wars, and I'm like, oh my God, it's here.
Well, these weren't even in the toy section at Toys R Us, which is why it was easy to get to. It was like a Brainiac section of Toys R Us.
Oh, okay.
And so, or whatever the branding is that they were using. And so I had spotted it out of the corner of my eye. And as soon as the doors opened, as soon as they let people go shopping, I went over there.
Yeah.
There was no line whatsoever.
Yeah, I got that one, and I got the cheaper Target one.
Yeah.
The Target one's more fun because you just don't want it, because you can replace that easily. I don't want to spend too much money to replace the other one.
Yeah, the other one I think I've taken out like twice last year. But so I read something interesting. I looked at Wikipedia and whatnot. I don't know how accurate.
He he internet stalked you.
Oh yeah,
basically.
I stalked you big time. It says you had like over 50 hours on QVC. It's interesting. Hawking, selling items and whatnot. Actually, what's like the weirdest Star Wars item that you actually tried to sell?
Well, of course, this was with Lucasfilm. And at the beginning, I was still with the Wall Street Journal, which wasn't real thrilled about me being on a TV show selling licensed Star Wars merchandise. And the first show they introduced me, the first time I was on was to sell an autographed edition of one of my books. And they introduced me as bureau chief of the Wall Street Journal in Los Angeles. That sort of raised some hackles. And so our deal was that they would not use any reference to who I was, just, major Star Wars collector. I escaped, I think, although I bought off the air. I got on about the fourth show that they did, and I escaped having to sell the tackiest Star Wars necktie and suspenders set made of alleged film frames. And what it was just pieces of cheap acrylic that they had printed film. It was, oh my
Did
God.
Larry King call in and buy one?
No, but I still have those someplace.
Mork for Mork.
Yeah. And Mark Hamill was on an early show, and but then I became a regular, and so Lucasfilm liked it because the first time was to help sell the book, but then I did it so well that they liked it because I sort of brought the entertainment part or the news from Star Wars
Right.
land or things like that. And we were approaching the special editions and Shadows of the Empire and stuff like that. And so I would always be able to bring something along and work with the retail person at Lucas Licensing. And then I became part of Lucasfilm and became a lot easier to do.
Right. So we've been here for I don't even know how many hours now.
Hours.
So I can't believe you're actually still talking to us. So
Isn't your dinner getting cold? I mean,
you spent more than enough time with the group, and you were kind enough to sit on this podcast with us. So we don't want you to go course just in case you have any more tours. So
One tomorrow.
One tomorrow.
tomorrow,
So
there you
we'll
go.
try to make this a little bit quicker than normal interviews. So we're
I've
gonna
got
skip
time,
it.
so
Okay.
go ahead and
So you had mentioned that you're trying to get funding for the cantina that you want to open here, which
Right.
sounds like an amazing thing
Such a
because
cool idea.
we get to go see all this cool stuff, and then we go drink in.
I didn't
the
say
cant-
you could drink. Well, certainly non-alcoholic.
Okay, so
drinks,
I was just picturing that in my head.
But we can
I was
bring
just
our own
imagining.
flask,
I was just imagining that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, Lucasfilm has offered us the cantina that was set up at the Celebration Anaheim, and it's an amazing set which they had built before for some online programming, and then they put back together, and it's in storage right now.
We were there.
That
was an awesome set piece.
It's a tremendous set piece, and we have the room for it. But now it's a matter of we are working on various ideas and plans to be able to raise the funds that it would cost to be able to surround this, to have a
Yeah.
building that this would fit in, and so.
Yeah, sorry about that. I was picturing in my head that I could actually drink in the cantina.
Why would you think you could drink in a cantina? That's the silliest thing I've ever heard of.
We're not here for the tour. We're here to
How do I
drink at
skip? I've seen the tour. I just want to do the video arcade games and the drinking, or maybe blend the two.
Yeah, blue milk at best.
yeah, leave your droids at the door. Well, you're doing a lot of charity work. One of the first convention we did was just a very small con, and it was a Make-A-Wish Foundation. We actually helped raise money for them, which was awesome. So could you briefly, I know you've talked extensively about your charity work, but just very briefly for the audience out there, like what kind of charity work do you do? And well, obviously you want to do it for the, also get the cantina going too, but.
Well, we're a 501c3 nonprofit ourselves, and so
Awesome.
people can donate money to us. A lot of people can take advantage of matching grants. Their companies do matching grants for all kinds of 501c3s, and so we've gotten funds in that way. And I always like to point out that the money that we raise, none of it goes to buy the collectibles. These are either donated by some companies or mostly they're purchased by me. The vast majority of the collection purchased by me. But we also extend our outreach to others. And so we do free tours for school groups, for other affinity groups. We give tours as to other charities for them to raise money.
That's
so
cool.
there have been other charities, local and outside Northern California, that have raised literally thousands of dollars by auctioning off tours of Rancho Obi-Wan, sometimes combined with other things.
That's
and so
super cool.
that makes us feel great that we
Absolutely.
have been able to do that. And in my purchases, a lot of the stuff that I've gotten at auction has gone to certainly Make-A-Wish, the UNICEF, the Mandalorian Mercs charity fund, some of which comes back to us. They make us a grant every year.
That's
It's wonderful. They're really good folks, and that is a real great brotherhood and sisterhood of those people. So the charity works all kinds of ways, but it works primarily because we ourselves are a nonprofit, and we work to aid other nonprofits and to sort of expand the whole Star Wars fandom.
That's fantastic.
One of the ways you could get donations to the thing is if you maybe to the museum here is maybe talk to Mark Hamill and see how he got his contract done so that you can get one of everything.
A little different, yeah. sorry. Yeah, I wish. Yeah, no. Mark goes way back, and Mark's a great guy, and I've known Mark and his wife Mary Lou and their son Nathan for quite a while. They're super people. But yeah, I mean, we do the annual, of course, the world famous Petaluma Butter and Egg Day Parade. So we're out there raising local awareness. Sometimes we drive the Rebel troop transporter in it. Sometimes it burns up, but. So we do a local event with our craft brewery, Lagunitas, and they do a wonderful thing in the spring and the summer. Every Monday and Tuesday, they're available for you to take their outdoor tap room and have a charity raising event.
Oh, that's cool.
In which you bring whatever you bring along, you charge whatever price you want, and then all of the proceeds that they ring up for their beer during that period goes to the charity. And so, we've done an event twice. We've done our May the 4th event there even. So one of them wasn't on May the 4th. This has to be on Monday and Tuesday. But so, that's great fun. And we've tricked it out with a costume contest for kids. So, yeah, the adults can drink beer, but the kids are, can
drinking
get food
and charity.
Yeah. Right.
What about asking Lagunitas to sponsor your cantina?
Yeah.
Did I just solve your problem?
Again?
Did I just solve your problem?
Again, there's no drinking in the cantina.
Just tell them to add a little
Let's
blue
take
dye.
this off. Yeah, let's take this offline.
Well, we'd like to do something we call the big finish.
With every interview that we've done so far. So these are just 3 predetermined questions that everybody gets, and fire away.
All right. So, all-time favorite character can be from any genre.
Well, my all-time favorite character is from Star Wars, and it is ObiWan Kenobi, and that's why this is not named Rancho Jar Jar.
I think there's
there
other
was
reasons
something.
for that too.
There was something about Obi-Wan, and it was partly that the character influenced me, but that it had already been part of my life. I always have considered myself in both my work life and in personal life as a mentor, looking for talent, bringing people into both the Wall Street Journal and to Lucasfilm, and then making sure that they got the right support so that they could succeed. And that has always been very important to me. And I saw that. Plus, I mean, the great acting by both Alec Guinness and Ewan McGregor just sort of cemented that.
We love them both. We love Ewan McGregor. We're hoping, praying that they make
wonderful?
an ObiWan Kenobi
That
movie.
would be great.
I remember
he's a
when
fantastic actor.
when that fake poster, that fake slide came out.
Yeah.
I lost it.
Yeah.
I thought it was real. I thought it was so real.
It sure looked real.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah.
So if ObiWan Kenobi was your buddy, like in real life, what kind of birthday gift would you get him?
I think I would give him all completely paid vacation to a lovely resort with Sabine. He needs it.
Yes.
All right.
Awesome answer.
That was a good one. So what are you watching right now on TV? What's your go-to? What do you have on DVR, or what is the one things you can't miss?
I watch America's Got Talent. I mean, I like things that are sort of light and that are a bit competitive and that involve some discovery. I don't watch a whole lot of TV, especially right now. Things are, I'll watch some of the Olympics certainly, but I'm trying to think. I love Modern Family. And I like a show called The Fosters, which is on
Netflix, right?
no,
Netflix?
it's on So they've renamed the channel. It used to be the ABC Family Channel. And trying to think what else I watch. Oh, well, Big Bang Theory I watch all the time.
It's one of our favorites.
And a lot of late night DVR'd, like especially James Corden, who I find
He's
very,
hysterical.
very
He's so
funny.
funny.
So.
So if Sheldon, if you're, you said you watched The Big Bang Theory.
Sheldon, if you're listening, you should come and visit here. All of you should, actually. We'll do an episode at Rancho Obi-Wan and The Big Bang Theory. That would be fun.
That'd be super
That'd be
cool.
great.
I think that could be arranged. Probably.
That probably could be if we can get them to listen.
From your lips.
So which if the character Sheldon,
Uh-huh.
if he had to ride if he had to pick 3 vehicles, would he ride in Kit, Airwolf, or Street Hawk?
It's like trying to think with those vehicles.
Kit. I think he would feel more comfortable in an older.
But he can't drive.
No, I know, but he could.
Oh, that's
But
even
the
better.
car
That's why-
can.
yeah, that's right. That's right.
But
That
the
is-
car can, so
yeah,
he
that's
could
right.
talk to the car.
That's actually a good
and the
answer
car
because he
could
loves.
drive.
That's right.
Yeah,
he
that's
loves
right.
AI. That's a good answer. Okay, so here's the last question.
Mhm.
Top 3 movies of all time. Anything. Top 3 movies of all time.
Star Wars, Lawrence of Arabia,
Oh, I love that film.
and
There's 13 Star Treks though.
I really love Star Trek, but I would not put that in my top 3 movies of all time.
And which Star Wars?
Star Wars.
There you
is
go.
my favorite of the films. Episode 4, and yeah, that's just where my mind was at.
E.T.
We have
She's
mind
got a
meld.
mind
Yeah.
reader.
E.T.
E.T.'s a
When I
big time.
when I first saw E.T. and walked out of the screening, I couldn't talk for 10 minutes.
E.T.
E.T.
That's actually the
Flying.
first movie that
Yep.
my father ever took me to, and I don't remember it, but he remembers the entire theater crying.
Yeah.
Spoilers:
Yeah.
E.T. dies in the movie.
No, he doesn't. You think he does?
So we're gonna wrap this up, but before we go, we have something for you. I guess we force future read this that you were gonna ask for a shirt. So we actually have a shirt for you.
Right in the middle of the tour,
And-
he's like,
and
"I'll do
just-
your podcast, but I need a shirt."
Yeah.
I'm like,
so
"Well."
just in case you don't like the shirt, you can't give it away to anybody else
Oh, I love it.
because it has your name on it.
It has Sansweet on the back and chew on this. A Nerds United podcast. Perfect. It's
We
my
might have to take that
size.
soundbite.
Yeah,
might
we might have to.
Oh well. Yes.
So the other thing we have is the person that we've been contacted is Anne, and Anne is your general manager, curator here.
Everything.
She was feeding you answers throughout the podcast too. But we were trying to figure out what to give you that somebody hasn't given you yet, and we at the first idea we had was we'll give them an action figure. Well, we've seen tons of fan-made action figures to you, and we're not really good artists. That's why we talk, because we can't
we talk
draw.
comic books. We
can't draw
art,
or
we tried
sculpt or
everything.
anything like that. So we're thinking, all right, well, we'll get Steve the shirt, and then we'll have to do something completely different. And luckily, unless it was in a box, we didn't see this out there.
Right.
So what we got for you?
Well, then
is-
again, it's only one. There's
only
none.
one ever
There's
made.
none
One
ever made.
So this is an official Chew approved podcast, #1 action figure, never made. It's a General Ann Newman action figure for your
my
museum.
God, I love it. I love it. We'll let
This
this
was
rest
really
in
hard to
Ann's
find.
Office.
It's
Oh
my first
God.
action figure.
I love it. Or maybe we put it with the other action figures.
It was
So
it was
this is
extremely
truly-
difficult to find.
This is
but
truly
we-
wonderful, guys. This is truly one. Can we put a little purple streak in there too?
Yeah.
I was actually going to draw glasses on there, but
Yeah, I told I thought, no,
No,
don't do
this
that.
This is wonderful.
Super cute.
This is
super
great.
Cute.
We'll have to get a
I love
picture
it.
with you
Steve
guys
has
with
a
it.
wealth of figures made with his likeness.
we wanted to think outside the box. That's kind of what we do. And so That is the only one in existence.
Cool.
And
It's
it
the
will
only
be
one
the only
ever-
one
the
ever
only
in
one ever.
existence.
So what we want to let you know, it comes with accessories, and the accessories are stormtroopers to help you curate, and those are
Move boxes. Move boxes.
and those pills are actually they're ibuprofen pills when you're curating for ends and endless amounts of time.
You know how many ibuprofen we've got?
We buy the 5,000 bottles.
A ride from Costco. Steve,
Fabulous.
Steve, and Ann, thank you so much.
Thank
The
you,
tour
guys.
was
This
wonderful.
has been great. I'm glad you were able to make the tour, and this was great fun. And chew on this.
Thanks, Steve.
Thanks so much for having us.